Again, thank you for allowing me to come out and speak today. As he was saying, our company is Network Technology Partners. We've been in business since 1998 in the St. Louis area. I have a master's in cybersecurity and did 2 years for the DoD, including Air Force One security technology. Some of the things we want to talk to you about today is really cybersecurity. This thing echoes, sorry. Cybersecurity and bringing awareness not only to companies but to the individuals. So today's topic is patching the human element. And you guys are the first line of defense, so you can't be the weakest link. And that's where we really want to focus is, why is security important? The internet allows a hacker basically to attack from anywhere. As I've been around in this building almost for an hour today, everyone's vulnerable. You got credit cards that are broadcasting, your credit card numbers. Was we out in the hallway? Was your credit card numbers being downloaded? Was your cell phones broadcasting information about you? All that stuff is available publicly in clear text, not encrypted. So those are things I want to talk about as we go through this presentation. And the biggest thing is user controls. And the number one thing I always talk to companies about is the brand identity. Nobody wants to be the next person in the news. You got Target. The latest thing in the news is Wendy's. It's going to be bigger than Target. Anyone eat at Wendy's and use your credit card? Well, you might have been compromised. You may not know it yet. So it's something to really be concerned about. And then you have data breach, which happens around the clock. And then my next question is identity theft. How many in this room could not file their taxes this year or last year? Several hands in here. And why did that happen to me? And why is it happening all the time? In every class that I do or presentation, almost half the room raises their hand to that question. And then I ask the next question, how many people has bought a car in the last 5 years? When you walk in a car lot, the car salesman hands you a piece of paper and you put in your name, address, and social security number. And he's just a salesman. You didn't go to a finance office or someone who's trained to handle this. Well, when you get mad and it's been 6 hours because you obviously didn't close the deal, that paper goes in his desk drawer. You didn't take it with you. He's took a picture of your driver's license and all this. Well, it's in an unlocked desk drawer. The cleaning crew has free access. A hacker, as myself, has free access. I know those are target places to go to find private information. Everyone in this room is worth $1 on the underground. Doesn't sound like a whole lot. But once I put your credit card number or social security number with that, now you're worth $11. Get your driver's license number, now you're worth $16 to the cybersecurity world. Well, that's not a whole lot of money that we put on the value of a person, but I'm targeting millions of people, not just one individual. There's other things like liability, copyright, reputation loss. All those things are very important when it comes to security. So what are threats? They come in all shapes and sizes. They're basically questions you need to ask yourself. What is valuable and what's vulnerable? If you don't know what's valuable or vulnerable to you, you should really step back and think about this. Is it my children? Is it myself? Is it my credit? Have I froze all my credit scores so no one else can hack in and steal things from me? Do I have some type of service on me? What can we do to safeguard against these? How do we prepare ourselves? And how do we educate others or our users, out there in the industry? So, cyber threats. So we talk about the 50 shades of hacker. There seems to be 50 shades of everything here lately. And the 50 shades of hacker basically comes in a white hat, black hat, and gray hat hackers. The difference is a black hat hacker is the people out there that are actually taking advantage of you every day. They're the one that's taking your information. That's the reason why you can't file your taxes, because they're making money off of you. Now, a gray hat hacker, where they're a little bit different is they're actually targeting companies and finding risk and vulnerabilities, and then they call that company and say, hey, I figured out you have this risk in your company, and if you'll pay me $5,000, I'll tell you how to fix it. But if you don't do that in the next 30 days, I'm going to the underground, I'm going to sell it to the black hat hackers. So they're kind of good, but it's a fine line. And then there's the white hat hacker, which is myself. I'm an ethical hacker. I'm hired to break into your company or figure out what a vulnerability is, or to unlock your cell phone, or any of those types of technology. It's my job to bring back all that data that you need, either whether it's for court or litigation or just out of curiosity or whatever. Those are things I do. And then you'll find there's all kinds of other hackers. We've got names like crackers, cyber terrorists, activists. I mean, everyone familiar with Anonymous, they wear the white masks, they're on TV every now and then. Well, during the Ferguson incident, Anonymous shut down Central County 911 during all those fires that was going on. We couldn't take a single 911 call. Now, were they excellent hackers, or were they just really good at tricking you into doing their job for them? And then there's script kiddies. Everyone in this room wants to be a hacker, whether you know it or not. And the reason I say that is because everyone's been curious, like, what is my teenager doing tonight? What is my spouse doing? You Google it. How do I track my teenager? How do I read their text from last night? How do I check their Snapchat? Well, believe it or not, you've come across the first link, and it's like Phone Sheriff, and it's $19, and you're like, I'm going to buy that. It's $19, no big deal. You buy it, you load it on your computer, and believe it or not, it actually shows you their text messages. You've accomplished your goal. That's a form of script kiddie. Someone else wrote the script for you, you purchased it, now you're a hacker. And we'll talk about why that's bad. So there's threats everywhere. Viruses, spywares, Trojans, we see all this stuff. We got IT departments. That can only go so far if you don't understand how it works. You've seen worms and Trojan horses and logic bombs. Logic bombs, I get called in investigations all the time. I'm a licensed investigator in the state of Missouri as a private investigator to do forensics. And we get called into companies all the time where all of a sudden the entire database went missing from a law firm or from a healthcare facility. Well, what it was a disgruntled employee who quit a month ago who loaded a logic bomb on the network to erase a SQL database or an Oracle database, and all that data is gone. And it happens that all the time. And luckily, we can either from a forensics level bring that back in some cases. Hopefully you have a good backup. But then there's viruses that's been around. Viruses actually started as a game between hackers. It was how obviously it was before Nintendo. It was when Odyssey and Atari was around. And they weren't very exciting. So we started writing viruses to actually have fun. And then it got out of hand, and that's where we are today. Rootkits is where someone actually puts a virus on your computer and escalates it and takes privileges, but the botnets is the one I really want to talk about real fast. And earlier, we all bought this software, Phone Sheriff and these other programs that are out on the internet. Well, I'm the black hat hacker who wrote that, and now it's on the internet, and you loaded it on your computer. So what I've done now is I've created this mass army of zombies, and you are now my botnets. And at any given time, I can control your computer to do what I want it to do. And my job is to obviously attack a company, whether it's Evans and Dixon or whoever. I'm going to have everybody in this room's computer say hello at the exact same time to Evans and Dixon. Computers are nice. You say hi, it says hi back. Well, while everyone's saying hi, I'm the black hat hacker who's injecting code in the back door without being tracked because the logs are so full. It's a denial of service attack, and I'm successful at what I'm doing. So that's something to think about when you're looking at different things on the internet. There's several signs out there that say you've been compromised. Your computer starts doing things by itself. You start getting all these pop-ups that's selling you security software. A lot of those times mean you're already compromised. And, especially spam, if your computer's sending out spam, more than likely someone's already compromised your computer. So And those are some of the basic stuff I want to kind of get out of the way at the beginning of this presentation, because we want to talk about some of the best practices from malwares and threats and things as we go forward here. What we recommend is security and defense. If you don't, and this not only goes for work or home, if you don't have a firewall or something at home, you're making my job too easy. I can break in most homes or businesses under a minute. Doesn't take long. If you have a firewall, you're bypassing a little bit more time, depending on how it's set up. If you don't have your operating system firewall turned on, if you don't have a current antivirus, hopefully you have an antivirus. Don't tell me it came with your computer 3 years ago and it's still loaded. Stay current with it. I mean, there's products like Sophos Home that's free. There's others out there. I'm not here to pitch a software, but have something on your computer. Please run the security patches, Windows updates, Mac updates. I hear it all the time. Why on a Mac? It's safe. Well, Mac had more vulnerabilities this year than Windows had. So, that safety is not what it used to be. The last thing is make sure you have a password, even on your home computer. Just don't leave it wide open. Same thing with your cell phones. Have passwords on your cell phones. Without it, you leave it laying around, or I get close enough to you, I'm going to steal your data. That's what I'm out there doing. Like earlier, standing in the hall, if you get within 30 feet of me and you have a pay-to-go credit card, you're broadcasting near-field communication. It downloads into my phone, clear text, full numbers, all that. So there's things to think about to protect yourself. And so human threats is where I really want to target. The human threats falls under social engineering. Everyone familiar with what social engineering is? Social engineering is what I do every day as my 40-hour work week. I go from company to company, whether it's hospitals, banks, law firms, and I impersonate, I walk in, I do pretty much whatever I want to do, and hopefully don't get caught or go to jail. I'm usually hired in at the virtual CISO level or from a director level to test security. A few weeks ago, I went out to a company here in St. Louis, and I spent 2 hours in their facility. No one ever asked me who I was or anything. Now, I picked the lock in the back door, which I bought off Amazon. It was $25, this little lockpick kit. Picked the lock, went in through the back door, and hung out in the building. I went to every department, including HR, IT even, and was able to get on a computer. People let me sit down and have fun and do what I'm doing. And I was talking to a gentleman, and I told him that I was doing a cybersecurity exercise, and my name's Jeff. That's all I told him, and I said, my job is to see if I can steal sensitive data from your company. And he goes, do you think it's possible? I said, I don't know, let's try it. So he moves out of my way and lets me sit down. And I thought, well, this is too easy, so I asked him, I said, where's the sensitive data? He goes, well, it's on the G drive. We have our customer database there. So I said, well, thank you. So I opened up Outlook, and I said, what I'm going to do is send this to myself, and I'm going to CC your director. Who's your director? So he gave me the director's name, because I didn't know who he was. And I attached that Excel spreadsheet. And before I hit send, he goes, hey, could you erase my signature out of there? I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want him to know it was from me. And I said, sure, no problem. And he thanked me, and I thanked him, of course, and then I continued to walk around. So after being there for 2 hours, I go by the lobby where the front door is, and I'm carrying a laptop and helping myself pretty much. I've had full access to 1099 documents, Social Security numbers. I found all this, and it's all saved on my computer. And the lady says, hey, you don't have a visitor's badge. And I was thinking, finally, somebody has spotted me. Well, she reached over and handed me a visitor's badge. She never said, hey, who are you? Who let you in? Can I help you? And so that was pretty much all happened within 2 hours, which normally I wouldn't spend that long in a facility, but we was trying to find all the weak points, which the entire facility was a weak point, in my opinion. So that one was really easy. And, So we go on from there into other companies. I spent last summer doing a lot of exercises for banks, and walked into a bank here in St. Louis. A lot of our stuff's between Kansas City, Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri, and I went in, and before I went in, I sent an email. I spoofed the director's email to the manager because I had our sales guy call and see who the manager was before I got there. And I sent an email saying, there has been an incident at our bank, and Mr. Fillers is going to arrive and examine this incident. So if you could validate who he is when he gets there and let him do his job. So she thanked me for the email because she responded to my email. So when I got there, she asked me for my ID. So I showed her my ID because I'm still Mr. Fillers, and then I showed her this badge I bought off Amazon. It was a $25 badge or so, and it says private investigator. Now, I really am an investigator, but this is just a little badge. So she said, can you give me a second? So she goes back to her office and she sends another email and says, hey, I just want to let you know Mr. Fillers has arrived. So from my phone, I thanked her. And so she let me go to a computer, and I cloned the entire hard drive, which had a lot of banking information, Jack Henry information, a lot of that stuff. So here I basically had what I wanted from this bank. Well, it got to be lunchtime, and she had to leave. So I'm still in the bank. Well, I've already been identified at the bank. So before I left, I asked for a business card. And I said, hey, I got to go down to the branch, across town. Could you call and let them know I'm coming, and I need to do some investigation stuff there, and we need to look at some of our banking software? So they called and let them know Mr. Fillers was coming. And I took the business card with it. And when I got there, it was still lunchtime, and there was two tellers working behind the line. They actually let me behind the teller line to show them some new features in the software. I had to guess my way through it, but it worked really well. And it got so busy that I started working the drive-through teller line. I was literally handling money and checks and didn't know what to do, so I was just trying to juggle everything. And when I went to present this to the board of directors, they were not happy. And they actually could see it from the security footage because it's being recorded. So, those are just a couple little things that, that I did off social engineering. I went to a government facility. I've been there about 3 times now in the last 2 years. And I have successfully made my way into the building, and they even have man-trap doors. And I've been able to talk my way in and steal confidential government drawings that are classified out of that building without being stopped. And that's all from just being nice. And, I hadn't even tried to use my hacking skills, and that's what we want to talk about. We can spend millions of dollars on buying technology and all this, but I can't patch the operator. I can't patch the humans. And, so when I'm from East Tennessee, and, I ask people all the time, like, everyone in this room from St. Louis, for the most part. And, when I sit out front and I ask people questions all the time, like, hey, where are you from? Where did you go to school? Because apparently in St. Louis, it's all about what high school you went to. Or, it's new for me. I grew up on a farm. We didn't ask those questions, but 'cause most of us didn't go to school. But, and as I'm asking questions, like, what year did you graduate? And, where did you go to college? And I'm asking all this stuff. Well, what I'm asking for is I'm going to reset your bank password tonight. Because everyone in this room's honest. When it asks you what's your favorite food, you're going to put your favorite food down. You're going to put your birthday down, your mother's maiden name. My favorite food's rock. I'm not going to be honest in these questions because people get to know you because of casual conversation. When you're at the bar tonight, people are just going to talk, and you're just going to keep on rambling right with them. And you don't think about it. And that's why your identity goes missing. And you can't file your taxes and these things. It's not that, and in some cases it's like, you hear about Anthem, they got hacked into, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and yeah, your information leaks out that way too, but a lot of times you do it to yourself. And when I got into doing this, I realized, being from Tennessee, I didn't know I had family all over the country. And I got family in Nigeria and all these places because they've been sending me emails for the last 10 years that I got relatives that's going to send me money. So hopefully next year I'm going to be worth billions of dollars and I won't be back. But, you know, you see those type of attacks through emails and telephones. I mean, just the other night I got a phone call from Windows support to tell me my Windows computer was sending out viruses. I don't even own a Windows computer. You know, and it's you get these random calls from places like, oh, your debit card did such and such. A famous hacker named Kevin Mitnick, one of the first real professional hackers in the industry, he did a class out in California where he basically said, he sat in the lobby of a hotel and he knew everyone that was registered for his class. And as they checked in at the front desk, he waited about 10 minutes for you to get in your room. And hotels used to have a little lobby phone. So he called the room number and he'd say, hey, Mr. Fillers, you just checked in a few minutes and I'm such and such down here at the front desk and your credit card didn't go through. Do you mind coming back down? I know you're busy, or do you want to read it to me over the phone? Well, the next morning in class, everyone that was in class's credit card number was on screen. And he said, now you've all been victims of social engineering. And it was that easy, and that's what he was known to do. So he was impersonating someone or tailgating or theft. All that happens from this type of social engineering. If you get a phishing email, know what you're looking for. It's usually they have hello, they have links in them. There's all kinds of things, man in the middle, brute force attacks. Typo squatting, anybody following the election right now? When Jeb Bush and Donald Trump was going at it a few months ago, Jeb Bush forgot to renew his domain name. And apparently there was a group of guys sitting around doing what's called typo squatting, and they bought jebbush.com on a Friday. Well, the next debate, Donald Trump says, how can you support our country if you can't even keep your domain straight? And nobody knew what he's talking about, so he pulled up jebbush.com and it went to Donald Trump's website. He redirected Jeb Bush's stuff to his own website. So, I remember AOL, Kmart, Google, Microsoft, Apple, they all lost their domain names to professional hackers who were sitting around doing typo squatting and trying to gain profit off of. So, email phishing examples. If you have a link in an email, you can point at it with the mouse pointer and a little pop-up box will come up. If they don't match, more than likely it's probably not a good idea to click on it. When I send out an email to someone, look at the full name in the from box. If it's from Jeff Fillers at ntp-inc.com and you're expecting it, then maybe it's okay to open it. But if it's from Jeff Fillers at nakedpenguinboy.com, you probably don't want to read that email. I'm just saying, but we do own the domain name. So my current one that I use for exercise is showmefishing.com, and people are still clicking on my email. And so there's things you got to look for. If you're not expecting from somebody, you don't have to open it. And and look at the subject lines, look at everything in the email. And in your handout, I have some examples there to look for. You look at some of the hospitals here. There's one in Hollywood, one in DC. They got shut down because some doctor or someone opened up an email and they got crypto wall. And it encrypted the entire hospital. So if a hospital was shut down for an hour, how much did it cost? Well, some of these hospitals were shut down for almost a week. They were transferring patients to other hospitals. We're not talking about the little bit of money from the network that shut down. They couldn't do surgery. They couldn't perform laser or anything. They can't monitor. They can't even administer medicine without a computer. So they have to move you. So because of lack of human knowledge or training, email phishing is very successful. So what are some of the best practices for human threats? Well, one, take all the technology away from you guys. So That'd be the easiest, but unfortunately we can't do that. So one of the best things to do is have a policy in place for you, for yourself, for your company, for everyone, and make sure they follow it. Because without policies, I mean, there's no way of enforcing it. And, you know, even with a policy, sometimes it's not going to help. And so if you don't have a policy in place and the humans don't know what to do, so when there is a breach and it's going to happen, 92% of all data has already been looked at by somebody other than your own company. So unless you're in that 8%, you've already been hacked. You don't even know it. So if you don't have a policy, you know, what I would do if I knew my company was under, I'd call Fox News. I want it to go public, you know, because no one's educated on me what to do. So I want to get it in the news. You know, that way that'll help PR, right? I mean, you know, that's the last thing you want to do is have your employees tweeting it or social media or, you know, I say Facebook's my favorite thing, and everyone in here Facebook's, right, or LinkedIn or some type of social media. It's just like the Egyptians, you know, they had Facebook back then. You know, they put it on the wall, it's there forever. Well, everything you put on social media is there forever, and including Kik and Snapchat and all that stuff. But so that's why it's important to educate people and talk about these kind of things. It's not to scare you and go back to pen and paper, which some people would probably really like, but, you know, just so you understand. And the last thing I always want to just kind of cover and talk about is password policies. We don't put these passwords to make your life miserable. We actually do it to try to help you. Some companies require at least like an 8-character password, upper, special, unique passwords. It's a torture, isn't it? When I worked for the DoD, I had 50 accounts, and all my passwords had to be 24 characters. And I had to remember them. I wasn't allowed to put them in my phone or my notes or on a sticky note on the monitor or wherever else. And we had to change them every month. Well, most companies have a 3-month policy. I don't know what yours is today. And here's the reason why. Last year, it took me 3 years to crack an 8-digit password. You know, 3 years of round-the-clock brute force attacks. This year, it takes me 120 days. So I can do an 8-character password in 120 days. Now, a month from now or 2 months from now, I might be able to do it in 30 days. I don't know yet. If I can get to that level of successful hacking in 30 days, then your 3-month policy is no good. And your 8-character passwords are no good. Now we're going to have to go to 11, 12, 13, 16, I don't know, depending on what we feel is safe. So, you know, how do you remember them without writing them down? And that's the hardest part. So I usually combine words, and my brain thinks binary, so it's easy for me to do that, or abbreviate something. Now, when I worked for the DoD, I don't listen to much music, being a computer geek, but I did write down song lyrics in books. And I'd take the first letter of every word in there, and that would be my password. And that's the month of January. February would be the second letter, so on and so on. Now, I would change it up just because I knew I didn't want somebody catching on, but most people weren't. They just thought I liked music, you know, and I have song lyrics in my cubicle. So I could write those down. I've even seen people do, like you see on TV, where they take a punch out and just put random holes on a piece of paper and they lay it over their favorite book and that's their password. You know, there's all this stuff that you can do versus writing it down. Up till a month ago, if you put it in your notes on your iPhone, you could actually ask Siri to show me notes password and she would speak it back to you. You know, Android, same way. The Windows phone, same way. You can ask it and it helps you. What I would do is say, Siri, show me notes password, and I would like to add a period to it. Even though your phone's locked, she would open it and add a period to it, and it would be on screen to display. It wasn't that I was a professional hacker. I just knew how to ask for what I wanted. Although we do have softwares that can break encryptions and things. I mean, you see the FBI, you know, we still don't know if they got into that phone, but If I was the FBI, I wouldn't want anybody to know I couldn't do it, because then every criminal or anybody in the world is going to go buy an iPhone. Still haven't produced results yet. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I know Apple's not going to do it because then it breaks encryption for the entire world. Not only Apple, but Windows, Google, because everyone uses the same level of encryption. So, anybody do secure online banking? No one does online banking? If you're doing online banking or anything, make sure there's a lock in the little corner somewhere. Make sure there's an S. Well, that's not good enough anymore. You also need to make sure it has a certificate. There'll be a little certificate to the side, like that one says Symantec Corporation. Click on that certificate. Don't just read it. It'll tell you if it's trusted or not. To get a certificate, it is a lot of work. I mean, for me to buy a certificate to be Symantec, it ain't going to happen because Symantec has to send in papers for it. So.
We got a question in from we got a question in on the text line. Why did it take so long for a white hat to help the FBI with the cracking of password of the San Bernardino terrorist iPhone? Was it you?
No, it was not me. It was actually a company from over in Israel, and they actually used a Chinese technology called an IP box. What an IP box is, you have to take the phone apart, you plug up some cables on the battery, and you plug cables on the bottom of the motherboard, and what it does is, when it comes on, it tries a 4-digit PIN. And immediately before the Apple logo boots up, it's constantly trying it. And when it finds a success, it displays the passcode on a little box. The Chinese invented it. But the problem is, if you do it wrong, it can lock out that device and it would stay encrypted forever. Luckily, that phone was still vulnerable. It wasn't up to the latest standard of Apple because it was behind the curve of the updates. And they were successful getting into it. And that vulnerability only applied to those 5C phones, which was a lower end phone. If you have an iPhone 6 or 6S, does not apply. Those are the most securest phones on the market today, as of today. Tomorrow might be a different story. So no, unfortunately I didn't get the help with it, but we're on the board of InfraGard. We work closely with the FBI, the Secret Service, and a lot of those guys, and we stay up to date with some of the technology. When I did work for the DoD, I actually had the first iPad before it ever went public. We had one in the lab for over 6 months. And I rooted the first iPad to prove that I could manipulate Apple's operating system and make it work for the DoD. So now the Air Force has over 18,000 iPads after my code that I wrote to allow them to use their military CAC card in the bottom of an iPad and still log on to a secure network. So.
Thank you for the question. Keep them coming in if you have them. And also, I will answer them the old-fashioned way. If you just raise your hand, I'll come to you. So,
okay. As I was saying, make sure that certificate is a trusted certificate. Click on it. If it's not trusted, please don't put your stuff in there because I can spoof a bank website in about 30 seconds, make you think you're on Bank of America's website or Regis or wherever. So all that stuff's really easy to do. I did grow up on a farm playing rugby and football. I don't know where this come from, but the biggest thing we want to talk about is I really want to empower not only the users, but also yourself. If you see someone suspicious or anything, it's okay to ask them to leave. And if you're not comfortable to do so, find someone who is. Someone's been trained or someone has the ability to ask somebody to leave. If I walk into your office and I lay my backpack down and I walk out the front door, is that going to alarm you at all? I mean, in today's society, it'd be very alarming. Well, I've done that at a few places and no one's ever called me to come get my bag back. But, it's curious on how people act. I'm waiting for somebody to say, who's the creepy guy that just dropped off a bag in the cubicle or something? You would think people would report this, but people don't. So Our goal is to make sure the entire business hierarchy comes from the C-level down. And the C-level, in most cases now, have gotten on board. Used to, security wasn't on everybody's mind. But now, since it's the number one topic everywhere, is data breach, you hear it everywhere. The C-levels have now started saying, hey, we want something done about this. So management's got to be comfortable to go to the C-level and say, hey, I need training for my users. I need training because we just bought a new firewall. We got the firewall, but nobody trained Joe over here how to use it. And every time there's a new update for it, he needs more training. Whether it's protecting law firms or whatever. I mean, you guys got client data that falls under HIPAA, PCI, SOX, ISO. Those compliances fall under your roles just as well as it does a hospital. And most people think, oh, it doesn't apply to me, I'm working on something. But yes, it does. According to, if you read the HIPAA regulations, when you're hosting that data, you've got to protect yourself just as well as, Mercy, Burns, and, St. Luke's. I mean, they all have to follow these. So we want everyone to be on board, to be comfortable talking to everyone. And so security awareness, it's very important to have these real-life social engineering exercises. Whether you're having it done by an internal team or having me come by and break into your company or any of these things, it's very good to teach people about suspicious persons and insider threats, because you don't know if someone's going to get pissed off and leave tomorrow. You don't know what they're going to do. You don't know the mindset of everyone, even though they may be your best friend. So we offer, different levels, security awareness training and leadership training, executive training, and those type of things. Our goal is to make the human element the strongest link, because you are the first line of defense. And, it's very important that, I don't want everyone to think, oh my gosh, I can't use my phone anymore, my computer, but you have to think twice. If I come to your house tonight and I'm wearing a charter shirt and I have a charter truck, and I bought the shirt at Goodwill and I have a ladder, you're going to let me in your home. Hopefully you're not going to let me in after seeing me today, but it's just something to think about. And, we have a full team of hackers out here. St. Louis has the largest hacking community of anywhere else in the United States. And we also host more top secret security stuff in St. Louis than anywhere else. Downtown 210 Tucker is, and all those hosting facilities down there has government. I mean, even the servers that control some of our drone technology sets downtown. You got pilots over here in Colorado, and you got computers here and drones overseas. That's why we miss slightly when we drop bombs. But, it's really, it's no wonder that more companies don't get hacked into, because there's a lot of unethical hackers in this area. So, any questions?
Very interesting information that you shared with us. Some of it I'd heard about before, but my question is, they talk about RFID.
Okay.
Is that really something that, my purse has it, my wallet has it? Does it work?
So, does your purse have an RFID block?
Yeah.
Okay, then it does work. It is lined with a lead lining material, like a Faraday cage. So when you go through airport security or metal detectors, you actually set it off if you have an RFID protector. And that's why you set it off, is because it's got metal in it. It does work, but it does not stop it 100%. So if I was 30 feet away from you, 20 feet, I could, you walk past me on the streets, I could download your passport or your credit cards. If you have it in that line, and we'd have to be real close. I mean, I'd have to bump up next to you and stand there for a while. So it'd be a very uncomfortable situation. So, but they do work. I have an RFID wallet. I go to hacker conferences, DEF CON, Black Hat, Derby Cons, B-Sides. There's hackers from all over the world. And before I leave, I go to Walmart, buy a prepaid phone, and I've got an old laptop that I've had forever. And I take those with me, and I forward all my calls to a prepaid phone because I don't want a hacker hacking my cell phone. So I always do things like that to take precaution. Like when I travel abroad, I put my passport in an RFID wallet. I joke that I want a fanny pack that has all that on there, but in reality, you've got to protect yourself because the other countries don't have the laws we have, and they're stealing your information, and there's nothing we can do about it. So it's definitely a good idea and you can buy those off Amazon. Fossil sells them at the Fossil store. And they even have sleeves that are like 39 cents on Amazon that you slip your credit card down in and you can just use your existing wallet or whatever. So.
What do you think about the home security systems that you control with your mobile phone?
So Z-Wave technology. Z-Wave technology is an embedded system. So if your home technology is not as secure, if you don't have a firewall, or if you have an open Wi-Fi, some people is like, it's just my home. I don't want to put a password in to get my computer on. Well, then I can turn your lights on and unlock your door and those kind of things from my phone. The problem is you've got to open up your firewall to allow you to use them from when you're away from home. Some of them work using the internet port 80, which is always open. But in most cases, if you're going to do home automation, make sure it's a very sophisticated password. Don't make it 1234 or a 4-digit number or a 6-digit number. Make it upper special and those kind of things. But home automation is scary. I mean, from right here, I can turn the lights on at my house. I can unlock my doors. I can tell you who came in last. I know exactly what time the door opened and closed. I can fill up my hot tub and turn my fireplace on. It intrigued me when I was building my house, but it's also, that's where technology is going. Famous hacker who lives here in St. Louis, Charlie Miller. Last summer, if you read where he hacked Chrysler cars, Charlie lives here in Ladue. He actually drove a Chrysler car around in Ladue unmanned using the Sprint network. And how he actually discovered it when he had bought a car and he was hacking into it, he had taken over somebody's car in Kansas City and realized he could have stopped the car and made it turn left or right. And Forbes magazine came and did a big article on Charlie, and Forbes is driving the car down Interstate 40, and Charlie actually shut the car off in the middle of the interstate, Interstate 40. And Forbes was like, what do I do? He goes, well, just turn it back on. It's just a computer command. But Uber just hired Charlie Miller, and he's helping develop their new unmanned driving car technology, which will be released in 2018, where you can buy a box and plug on your car, and Uber will drive you wherever you want to go. So that's what their goal is. And Uber's already driving around St. Louis videoing just like Google Maps, so that technology will work. So what I think, and most people have probably had the thought too, is so now happy hour sounds even better. I can go to happy hour, get in the back seat, and go home. And or before I go on vacation, put the kids in there at 10 o'clock, and we don't leave till midnight. We're all asleep in the car, and then it just takes me to where I want to go. But that's where we're going with technology. So anyway.
Is there a way to tell if your phone's been hacked? How do you look at your phone to find that out?
So from an average user, that's really difficult to do. But like I said, we do computer forensics at our firm. We can actually do cell phone acquisition. I'll never say forensics on cell phone because there's not science behind it. It's live acquisition. There is no such thing as cell phone forensics. And it can actually tell me the running processes of like phone share for some of those applications if somebody loaded it on there. There is a couple that you can buy, iBackup and a couple of the other ones that are like $59, $69 off the internet that can tell you what processes are loaded or what applications that are on your phone. And then you'd have to go through and say, this one looks weird. Then just Google the name of it and it'll tell you if it's a spy software or not. So.
question. Oh, sorry. We have a question in from the text line. Visa has been talking about adding the chip to their credit cards. Do you think this added feature will be effective in decreasing fraud in stores?
So the new chip credit cards, we've already cloned those since they've come to the United States. They were never cloned when they were in Europe, so you'll hear more about that this summer at Black Hat when the Black Hat hackers release the information on how to clone the new chip credit cards. Makes you feel safe already, huh? The problem is the new chip credit cards are old technology. They're the same technology we use in the military CAC cards. So if you have a common access card reader, you can read the chip credit cards. What makes them good is if you have the card and a PIN number. But most companies today are not enforcing, you just put the card in and it reads and tells you you're approved. Now, debit cards obviously make you do a PIN number. So until the credit card industry forces us to use credit card and a PIN number, then there are no more, there's just typical credit card at that point. But as far as cloning them, I mean, we can do that really easy, so.
What about the password apps that allow you to store passwords in an app that's supposed to be secure?
So LastPass and some of those other applications that are on the computers and cell phones, they're only as good as the opening password that you put in. So if you make your password Jeff Fillers or your dog's name or something that's a dictionary word, then somebody could crack into it. Make sure when you install those that you set it to lock it out after 3 unsuccessful tries or something, because you don't want me to just keep on trying. I do have to say I use a Parabon, an Encase, and some of the high-end forensic softwares that actually gets around it and produces the password, because it stores it in a file. It's like a SQL file, so we can still get to it. It takes a little bit of time. But for a typical day-to-day users, they're actually really good. But I will never say something's foolproof or safe or silver bullet, because there is no such thing. I mean, if humans build it, another human's going to take it apart. And that's what you always have to remember. So, I mean, it's all technology works that way.
Think we have time for one more question. Any other questions out there? No? Well, let's give. Oh.
How do you make my fireplace work? So, well, it varies. So, in my line of work, it could be midnight, 1 o'clock, or so.
All right. Anything else? No other questions?
And we'll be around throughout the afternoon. I also have a couple of gentlemen that works with me over here, Brendan and Andy. If you guys have any questions or want to know anything else, feel free to ask us. I mean, that's what we're here for. Ask us what we can. I know people ask me all the time, well, how do I know I can trust you? I'm like, well, I can't tell you other than, I have worked in a lot of places. I've been vetted out. I've had more clearance background polygraph checks than most people, but you just somewhere you have to trust somebody. But hopefully we can help you or answer questions you guys have about any type of technology or security. So thank you.